Welcome back, artistic ladies and gentlemen, to another Meta Monday episode in this Pokémon TCG Online series. Meta Monday is a day of the week where we take a look at competitive decks from the past or the present in a Pokémon TCG Online meta, as well as decks that might become a part of the meta in the future. Today I bring you a Ho-Oh-EX Mega Manectric deck. Ho-Oh-EX with 180 HP is a colorless type Pokémon with 1 attack and 1 attack only. The Elemental Feather hits for 130 damage and then 30 more damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So he's a little bit of a sniper. We could, for example, snipe an EX on my opponent's bench with 170 HP, so we do 30 to it with Elemental Feather. Then in the next turn we can Lysandre that EX. If we have a Fighting Fury belt attached to our Ho-Oh, we hit for 140 with the Elemental Feather, which is a knockout on the EX, and then we can snipe another EX, and in the next turn we can do exactly the same. So it's a little cycle you can get going with Ho-Oh-EX here. Do note that the Ho-Oh-EX, the attack from the Ho-Oh, takes 3 different types of energies: a grass energy, a water energy, and a lightning energy. And it's also got an ability, Purifying Fire. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon has any basic fire energy attached to it, you may heal 50 damage from this Pokemon. So if we have a Fighting Fury belt attached, Ho-Oh-EX has 220 HP, and we actually can heal from this Pokemon if we have a fire energy attached to it, which makes it a pretty bulky and tough Pokemon to KO. Because we need lightning, grass, and water energies as well as fire energies, we do play 4 types of energies in this deck: 2 fire energies, 3 grass energies, 3 water energies, and then 4 lightning energies. More lightning energies than any other type of these energies, because our partner for Ho-Oh is Mega Manectric, and Mega Manectric itself does require lightning energies. 1 lightning energy and 1 colorless energy. We can hit for a Turbo Bolt for 110 damage. Attach 2 basic energy cards from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon. So what we are going to try to do here today is, first off, when we start off with a Manectric-EX in the active spot. Then we are going to attach Manectric Spirit Link to our Manectric. In the next turn, we are going to evolve into Mega Manectric, hit for a Turbo Bolt for 110 damage, and then attach, for example, a Grass Energy and a Water Energy from our discard pile to our Ho-Oh-EX, so that this Ho-Oh-EX can hit for an Elemental Feather in a mid and late game. This Ho-Oh-EX is excellent when you're up against EX heavy decks, but also is quite good against Night March, because it is a bulky Pokemon, and you can snipe Jolteon-EX on the bench with the little snipe here from the Elemental Feather. Now, if you're up against Night March, we actually prefer to go with Jolteon-EX. Jolteon-EX is a secondary attacker in this deck. 1 copy of Jolteon-EX with the Flash Ray does 70 damage for a DCE and 1 lightning energy, and during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from basic Pokemon, which is exactly what Night March consists of. Night March is all basic Pokemon, so we could actually Turbo Bolt and then put energies on our Jolteon-EX, power up our Jolteon-EX, and we are then going to promote Jolteon-EX in the active spots to fight the Night Marchers off. We could also promote Aegislash-EX if you are up against Night March, or if you are up against Vespiquen Vileplume, because Aegislash-EX has the Mighty Shield ability, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from each of your opponent's Pokemon that has special energies attached to it. And we can even power up his Slash Blast attack. We do not have any metal energies, but it only takes colorless energy, so if we really want to, we can also attack with Aegislash. Most of the time it's just going to be used as a Waldo against Vespiquen Vileplume and against Night March, more so against Vespiquen Vileplume, because typically they only run 1 or 2 copies of Hex Maniac and 0 VS Seekers, so we can really put our Aegislash to good use against Vespiquen Vileplume. Then we have 1 Hoopa-EX. Hoopa-EX is going to allow us to search for our EX Pokemon here, for all of our EX Pokemon, the Mega Manectric, for example, the Jolteon, as well as the Ho-Oh can search 3 EX Pokemon. Most of the time we will look for a Manectric, for a Ho-Oh, and then also for a Shaymin. Shaymin is here for setup, so that we can set up faster than if we were just to use supporters for drawing through our deck. Shaymin can also Sky Return. We can definitely do that. We don't run DCEs, but we can definitely power up the Shaymin for a Sky Return if we want to do that. 3 Shaymins in this deck, that's a lot of Shaymin, but we want to draw through our deck really well, because we use Max Elixir to power up our Pokemon in addition to the Turbo Bolt from the Mega Manectric. Max Elixir is going to be used to power up our Ho-Oh, to power up our Jolteon-EX a little bit faster. 4 copies of Max Elixir, because we have 12 energies, so we have a decent chance at hitting those Max Elixirs. Then we also have draw supporters, obviously, for Sycamore to draw through our deck in addition to the Shaymin N1 and more Sycamores than N, because we actually want to discard energies if we can, and then we can attach those energies from our discard pile with the Turbo Bolt. So that's why we have more Sycamore than N. Also, just because Sycamore is probably the best draw supporter in the game right now. And then we have two Battle Compressors. Battle Compressors are going to help us to discard our energies in addition to the Sycamore and also in addition to the Ultra Ball, because Ultra Ball also allows us to discard cards from our hand. Ultra Ball is going to be used to search for our Hoopa and also to search for our Shaymins, and then possibly at times just to search for one EX Pokemon like the Mega Manectric, or we could also use it to search for our Smeargle. Smeargle is a bit of a tech Pokemon here. Smeargle has the second code ability. Once during your turn, before you attack, you may switch a basic energy card attached to your active Pokemon with a different type of basic energy card from your discard pile. Now this is going to come in handy for our Ho-Oh-EX. For example, if you have a grass, a water, and a water energy attached to our Ho-Oh-EX instead of a grass, a water, and a lighting, then we cannot attack with our Ho-Oh-EX. However, if we have Smeargle on our bench, we can make use of the second code ability to swap out one of those water energies for a lightning energy, and just like that, with a click of the finger, this Ho-Oh-EX is ready to hit for the Elemental Feather. It's not just useful for Ho-Oh-EX, Smeargle is also useful for our other Pokemon. Since we do run so many different types of energies, we are going to be faced with situations where our Pokemon do not have the right energy attached to them. For example, Mega Manectric might have a grass and a water energy attached, and then we need Smeargle to swap out one of those energies for a lightning energy. Very useful card in this deck. I don't think this deck would function nearly as well without Smeargle. Then we have some attack supporters. We have a Hex Maniac, one copy of Hex Maniac to counter Greninja Break, to counter Trevenant Break, to counter Vespiquen Vileplume, to counter Metal Links from Bronzong, and plenty of other decks that rely on abilities. We also have an AZ. This is possibly the best tech card in this deck. AZ allows us to pick up our Ho-Oh-EX or to pick up our Jolteon-EX when they have been nearly knocked out. For example, if Jolteon has 150 damage on it, we can pick it up with an AZ. Then we can promote our Mega Manectric-EX, hit for a Turbo Bolt, and attach two energies from our discard pile that we discarded with AZ back onto the Jolteon-EX. And just like that, all we need to do is attach one energy from our hands, and this Jolteon-EX is ready to hit for a Flash Ray again. And it is completely free of damage. We denied our opponent from taking two prizes. I think this AZ has a ton of synergy here with this deck, with the Turbo Bolt from the Mega Manectric, and with our ability to get back energies from the discard pile because of that Turbo Bolt. Then we also have two Lysandre easy targets like Shaymin, but also a Pokemon that we might have hit with a Turbo Bolt before and that my opponent retreated. We can Lysandre that Pokemon again and Turbo Bolt again for the KO. That is definitely a possibility. Then we have 4 VS Seekers to get back our draw supporters and to get back our tech supporters. And we have some one-off item cards left. We have one switch to switch between our Pokemon. This Mega Manectric here has got free retreats, but our other Pokemon like the Hoopa or like the Aegislash or like the Ho-Oh do not have free retreats, so we need some switching cards. The switch is going to help us with that. Same for the Float Stone. We can attach the Float Stone to our Hoopa and make sure if it gets Lysandered out that we can retreat it. Then we also have one Super Rod to shuffle back our Pokemon into our deck, or possibly some energies. If all of our Mega Manectrics have been knocked out, we will want to shuffle back some energies in our deck. Make sure that we can attach energies to our Pokemon because we do not have the Turbo Bolt anymore. And then we have one Buddy-Buddy Rescue. It's going to be very useful for us in combination with the Battle Compressor. If you start off with the Battle Compressor, we can Battle Compressor Shaymin or a Hoopa, and then Buddy-Buddy Rescue for that Hoopa at the start of the game. But it's also very useful in the late game if we want to get back a Jolteon that was knocked out directly to our hands. All we need to do is Buddy-Buddy Rescue for that Jolteon. And we also have one more item card, a Fighting Fury Belt, one Fighting Fury Belt for our Jolteon as well as our Ho-Oh-EX. Only one Fighting Fury Belt because the other item cards, the other tool cards that we run are Spirit Links for our Manectrics. You could try to include 2 Fighting Fury Belts, that's definitely a possibility, but I did not find the space for it, so I stuck to one Fighting Fury Belt. The stadium of choice for this deck is Skyfield, not Rough Seas. We are playing Skyfield because we bench a lot of Pokemon. We bench a Hoopa, we bench Mega Manectric, we also bench Shaymins as well as a Smeargle, and then we still need to have space for Ho-Oh, so we definitely want to get a Skyfield out, put down the Skyfield, then put down our Shaymins as well as our Hoopa. If our opponent counters the Sky Field, that's okay for us. We will discard our Shaymins and we will discard our Hoopa in response. And that is it for this deck. I think I have rambled on long enough. It is time to see this deck in action. Leave a like if you enjoy the upcoming battles. It is much appreciated. And subscribe to my channel if you want to see more Meta Monday episodes. Right now, I will find myself some opponents and I'll see you in the battles. Actually, before we start the battles, I quickly want to mention that you should consider switching out some Pokemon in this deck depending on the meta you are facing or depending on the battles you are having. For example, if you are constantly facing Vespiquen and Vileplume, I would highly recommend taking out the Jolteon-EX and replacing it with Glaceon-EX, because Glaceon-EX can prevent damage done to itself by evolution Pokemon such as the Vespiquen. If, for example, instead you are constantly facing Greninja Break or Water decks or Seismitoad decks, then I would recommend putting in one Trevenant-EX. Trevenant-EX can be very easily powered up using the Turbo Bolt from the Mega Manectric, attach these grass energies from the discard pile to Trevenant-EX, and Trevenant-EX can very easily one-shot Greninja Break and Seismitoad-EX. So depending on the matchups you are having, you can change this deck, change it up, put in Pokemon, take out Pokemon to make sure you can win as often as possible with this deck. And that is all I wanted to say. Right now, I will for sure find myself some opponents in the Versus ladder. LF Moneda is going to be our opponent with the colorless Psychic and a Lightning deck. Either this is a mirror match, or this is going to be Night March, or maybe Mega Rayquaza. And it is Night March. We get to go first. It's definitely Night March. So we want to find, oh my goodness, we start off with the poor Smeargle. Smeargle is going to get hit here. So we need to find our Jolteon-EX. Let's hope the Jolteon-EX is not prized. Let's hope Jolteon-EX is not prized here. And there is a Joltik. Alright, let's discard one Mega Manectric and one VS Seeker. And let's try to find our Jolteon here. So there is a Jolteon. I am going to Hoopa for the Jolteon. And unfortunately also a Shaymin. We need to find a Shaymin. Yep. Hopefully we can pick up that Hoopa at some point, because now my opponent can Lysandre around our Jolteon. So let's grab the Jolteon and the Shaymin. We are going to try to Max Elixir onto the Jolteon so that in the next turn we can power up this Jolteon for a Flash Ray and hit for the Flash Ray. We'll bench the Jolteon. We'll attach a Fighting Fury Belt to the Jolteon, and then we will Max Elixir onto the Jolteon. Yes, we get the Lightning Energy. That is fantastic. All we need to do now is attach an energy and we are good to go for the next turn. Shaymin it is for 4 more cards. We cannot bench any more other Pokemon now. Or we should not bench any more other Pokemon. Battle Compressor, that is good. I can Battle Compress the Ho-Oh. One Ho-Oh, one Shaymin. And one Lysandre here. Maybe not. Let's not discard the Shaymin. Let's discard a Lysandre and let's discard an N. We are going to N here. Maybe not. We are going to Sycamore. What do we have in our hands? Yes, we are going to Sycamore. Alright. Then we shall put down our Sky Fields and we are going to Sycamore our hand away. I am not going to bench my Manectric. I am completely going to rely on my Shaymin here. Right now we have 5 prizes in play that my opponent can Lysandre, and then also the Jolteon. So we are safe now from deck outs. No, from the KO from Night March. My opponent cannot Lysandre enough Pokemon to win the game. So we shall end our turn here. All we need to do in the next turn is attach this Water Energy and retreat our Smeargle. And we are good to go there. Fighting Fury Belt on our Joltik. Pumpkaboo comes down. A Shaymin comes down. Well, my opponent could actually play Target Whistle. That is something we need to watch out for. My opponent could play Target Whistle. So we want to find our AZ and pick up as many Pokemon as we can. That's what we want to find. That is what we want to do here, to make sure our opponent cannot Lysandre out 6 prizes. Alright. So we know our strategy. Oh, Escape Rope. And let's give our opponents the Shaymin as a very easy prize straight away. Maybe not. Do we want to do that? Yeah, I want to attack in the next turn. So I actually want to give my opponent something he can very easily KO. Hopefully he takes the bait here. Hopefully he's going to knock out our Shaymin. And then we can definitely hit for the Flash Ray. Another Shaymin. Maybe my opponent should have He kept his escape rope for later on in the game, because that could have been useful to get rid of our Jolteon out of the active spots, reset the effect from a Flash Ray, and then Lysandre it out. I think my opponent should have kept the escape rope for later on. Discards a Lampent right there. That is 2 Night Marchers in the discard pile. We see a Battle Compressor to compress some more Lampents. So we'll probably see 5 Night Marchers in the discard pile already. And that is 200 damage on our Shaymin here. No, actually not. That is just 100 damage because my opponent is not attacking with the Joltik. Actually only discarded 2 Lampents, so my opponent is hitting for 80 damage instead. He uses a puzzle. Only 1 puzzle, not 2 puzzles. Another Shaymin. That is 3 Shaymins already. That's quite a lot. For 3 more cards, what can he find? Has he used a supporter? I don't think so. I don't think he's used a supporter. There's a DCE. Do we see the Dimension Valley? Do we see a Dimension Valley? An Ultra Ball. I think he might be digging for the Lysandre here. Maybe he will try to Lysandre our Jolteon. He will need to discard 10 Night Marchers. There's 2 in play, so he needs to discard all of his remaining Night Marchers. If any are prized, he cannot knock out our Joltik unless we see a startling Megaphone. A V-Seeker for the Sycamore. Alright. So no Lysandre. He did not discard a Lysandre with the Battle Compressors. Discards a DCE. That is good. 1 V-Seeker, 1 DCE gun, 1 Puzzle gun, another Battle Compressor. We could also see a Pokemon Catcher. That's definitely possible. That's 3 more Night Marchers. That is 140 damage right now. And another Battle Compressor. Will he discard all of his remaining Night Marchers? Is that really going to happen here? Nope. Just discards an AZ. Alright. I was not expecting to see an AZ. And a pass of the turn is not going to knock out our Shaymin. We get a Max Elixir. If we hit this Max Elixir, it is basically GG. Yes, we do hit the Max Elixir. Now we can retreat our Shaymin here. My opponent did not take the bait. That is fantastic. We can retreat our Shaymin. We are going to do that. And we are going to hit for the Flash Ray. But before we do that, let's try to find an AZ for the next turn. Yes, we are definitely going to try to find an AZ. And then we can pick up our Shaymin. Oh, no AZ. Wow, that's a pretty bad hand here. That's a pretty bad hand. We could power up the Shaymin for a Sky Return, but we need to go with the Flash Ray from now on forever and ever and ever. We do not want to stop attacking with the Flash Ray. So let's Flash Ray for 70 damage, 80 damage because of the Fighting Fury Belt. Take 1 prize against Night March. What is my opponent going to do here? There's an Energy. Can he find a Lysandre? Promotes the Shaymin. Promotes the Shaymin. That is a very easy KO for us. Is going to wait until my opponent finds... Is he going to wait until he finds the Lysandre? He did have that Float Stone in his hand, so that's why he promoted the Shaymin, I think. This gives him some flexibility. Where is his Lysandre? There's a DCE on the Joltik. Promotes the Joltik, alright. A Trainer's Mail. Does he maybe play 2 Escape Rope? Does he play 2 Escape Rope? There's a Town Map. Let's see. Is the Lysandre in the discard pile or in the prizes? The Zero Seek. Judge. It's not in the prizes, but the Target Whistle is. That is fantastic. The Target Whistle is prized, so we will not see a Target Whistle for now. Until my opponent finds a Lysandre, we will not see a Target Whistle. That buys us some turns to find our AZ. If the AZ is in our deck, I should have looked with my Ultra Balls. I should have taken a look there. I might just have to use my V-Seeker here to find, or to use my N for an AZ. To use my N to dig for an AZ, that way Teammates is going to Teammates for the Lysandre, I think. I'm not sure what else my opponent could get. Could get an Escape Rope again if he still has another one. What is going to happen? There's a Startling Megaphone, alright. That's not too bad. And a Dimension Valley, that's okay. And then we'll just see a pass of the turn. Night March for 0 damage. We will knock out his Joltik. And that leaves my opponent with only 1 more DCE in his deck. And a victory! There it is! There is a victory! We win the game against Night March. That was fantastic. We were a little bit lucky because the Target Whistle was prized. That was definitely lucky for us. If it wasn't, my opponent could have Target Whistled and Lysandred for the win there. Could have Target Whistled 1 Shaymin and then Lysandre 3 times, one time on our Shaymin, another time on another Shaymin, and finally on our Hoopa to take the win. But I think we would have found our AZ in the meantime. Let's take a look at the stats. 80 damage dealt and Jolteon-EX MVP. Alright, let's move on into the next match. Our next opponent is Tycord with a Water, a Lightning, a Psychic, and a Darkness deck. No Shaymin in my opponent's deck though. Who is going to go first? That is the question right now. And my opponent goes first. Alright. Let's get moving. Let's get grooving. We start off with the Shaymin. Not so good. But we do have an Ultra Ball for a Hoopa for another Shaymin. We can discard a Fire Energy and a Water Energy with this Ultra Ball. And then attach Water Energy to maybe a Manectric or something. That is the plan at the moment. What does my opponent start off with? Ooh, Jolteon and Mew. So we'll have to get out our Mega Manectric here to deal with the Jolteon from our opponent. This could be Glaceon, Jolteon, and then the Darkness, I would have no idea. Maybe Yveltal, Baby Yveltal, maybe something like that. So the Mew can use the Baby Yveltal attack, or the Yveltal attack. I think that's what's going on here. Glaceon can prevent damage from the Mega Manectric, but that's okay, because we can very easily deal with the Glaceon with our Ho-Oh. There's a Fighting Fury Belt on the Mew, alright. And a Battle Compressor. And that's okay as well. Is going to discard maybe a Draw Supporter. Probably a Draw Supporter actually. What will we see? Maybe even a Lysandre. Ooh, 3 Draw Supporters. No, actually 2. Professor Sycamore, an N, and a Pokemon Fan Club. Then a Puzzle of Time. Is going to puzzle probably just one puzzle. Or we could see 2 puzzles. No, it's only one puzzle. Does that mean we will see a pass of the turn straight away? That's a pretty bad start for my opponent then. Never mind, a VS-Seeker for a Pokemon Fan Club. Alright, decides to go for the Pokemon Fan Club and not the Sycamore or not the N. Maybe my opponent has another VS-Seeker in hand. Pokemon Fan Club for the Glaceon. Pokemon Fan Club for a Hoopa and a Mew. So, and can then Hoopa for a Glaceon and a Glaceon and the Darkness Pokemon. Cannot Hoopa for a Shaymin, because my opponent does not play Shaymin as far as I'm aware. Unless I did not see that correctly during the loading screen. There's the Hoopa. Scoundrel Ring. Very, very nice ability. One of the better abilities in the format, I think. Oh, it does play Shaymin. Alright, I was mistaken then. Maybe the colorless typing fell off the screen there or something. So we'll see the Glaceon. Another Mew, and then a Shaymin to fill up my opponent's bench. And that's going to be interesting here. Will we be able to take the win against this Glaceon, Jolteon deck? I think we have an advantage because we have a bigger damage output or a higher damage output than my opponent. My opponent can hit for 70 at most. Yeah, 70 or 80 with Fighting Fury Belt, maybe 90 with the Muscle Bands. But we hit for 110 and 130, so it's a bit unbalanced there between me and my opponent. A DC on a Mew and a pass of the turn. Alright, a switch, that's okay. We'll discard this Fire Energy and the Lightning Energy. Maybe we can power up our own Jolteon here. That would be fantastic if we can get our own Jolteon going before my opponent. That would be a problem for my opponent. Let's see. Oh, we don't have a Hoopa. Oh, we do have the Hoopa. I was a little bit scared there for a moment. We will Hoopa for our Jolteon. Then also for one Manectric and maybe actually the Aegislash. Let's grab the Aegislash, the Jolteon, and the Shaymin. Yes, alright, that's it. Because my opponent seems to play a DCE, so Aegislash can definitely come in handy. Then we are going to bench our Jolteon, and we are going to try to Max Elixir onto our Jolteon here. The first Max Elixir fails, so we won't be able to attack this turn it seems. This one fails as well, alrighty. Not too much luck here for us. Let's attach to our Jolteon. Then let's switch into our Aegislash. And just for now, and we will Shaymin for 6 more cards. What can we find from the Shaymin? Can we find a Manectric maybe? Ooh, a Lightning Energy, a Float Stone. I'm going to put the Float Stone on the Aegislash and I'm going to discard all of these energies. Now I definitely need to find a Manectric though. There's a Max Elixir. I don't think that will hit. Oh, it does hit. Look at that. Lightning Energy for our Jolteon. All we really need now is another energy on that Jolteon. We are going to discard the one Spirit Link and maybe the AZ. Let's discard AZ, and we are going to grab a Manectric. Let's grab the Manectric. Let's get that Manectric ready so we can evolve into the Mega Manectric in the next turn. Let's put down the Spirit Link and then we shall end our turn right here. What can my opponent do? What can my opponent do? We are nearly ready here. All we need is one more energy. I will probably Sycamore in the next turn. I kept my Hex Maniac because we can Hex Maniac the Mew if we really need to. But I think I will go for a Sycamore and try to find that last energy that we need to attack with our Jolteon-EX. And then we can definitely stall a while with our Jolteon-EX. Not sure what my opponent's reply is going to be to our Jolteon. We haven't seen a single evolution Pokemon yet. Not a single one. There's a Lysandre on the Hoopa. Alright, I don't mind that. We have our AZ in the discard pile. We have a Battle Compressor right there. Let's see, I could just hit for the Swift. But I think I will just Sycamore. Let's Sycamore. Alright, let's go for the Sycamore. We will try to find another VS-Seeker for an AZ. Let's discard let's discard one Mega Manectric. And let's also discard one Battle Compressor. Yes, that seems mighty fine. Alright, and then it's time to Sycamore here. What can we find from the Sycamore? Fighting Fury Belt, no VS-Seeker, that's a bummer, no VS-Seeker. We do find that Fighting Fury Belt though. In the next turn I'll probably end. We need to watch out for the deck out though, because we are already down to 16 cards and we haven't taken a single prize. We need to take 6 prizes here. We can also just Lysandre my opponent's Hoopa, try to stall that way. Use the same tactics as my opponent, but ideally I want to keep my Lysandres for the Shaymin and for the Manaphy. That's what I want to keep my Lysandres for. There's a Fighting Fury Belt on the Jolteon. Will we see anything else? Do we see a Lightning Energy from my opponent? Or a Water Energy? A Water Energy is what he needs if he wants to if he wants to prevent us from attacking with the Mega Manectric. There's a VS-Seeker for an AZ. Do we AZ right now? I think we will. Let's AZ up that Hoopa out of the exit spots. Then we are going to promote our Jolteon. We are going to start attacking here. Not waste any time. Swift for 30 damage. In the next turn we could get hit for 70 in return, but that's okay. That's definitely okay. All we need is another energy and we are fine. Another energy and we are completely good to go. Which we should be able to get from the end. And there's an end from our opponent, so we don't even need to end ourselves. We get end already. Can we find an energy? A Max Elixir, and there is the energy that we need. As well as a Lysandre, so we can Lysandre the Shaymin for a knockout. A Trainer's Mail. Yeah, we are going to Lysandre the Shaymin, that's for sure. Ultra Ball, an Ultra Ball for nothing, promotes the Shaymin. We don't even need to Lysandre the Shaymin. DCE is going to Sky Return the Shaymin, never mind. My opponent is going to Sky Return the Shaymin. 30 damage on our Jolteon. There goes our plan. There goes our plan indeed. Well then, what are we going to do? I will just hit the Jolteon, I think. Yeah, let's Flash Ray the Jolteon. 70 damage on the Jolteon. And now we are safe from my opponent's deck. 2 more Flash Rays and we will knock out this Jolteon. Will my opponent retreat in the next turn? I think he might. I'm not sure why he's having so much trouble finding his energies. Does he only play 4 DCEs and maybe 3 basics energies or something? I was expecting to see Max Elixirs, honestly. There is the Rainbow energy. Oh, he plays all special energies. Retreats into the Mew. That's okay. We are going to go for our Lysandre, I think. Are we going to go for our Lysandre? We have used 3 VS-Seekers. We can only Lysandre 3 times. We need to use our Lysandres very wisely. Very, very wisely. And there is the Flash Ray from our opponent, I believe. Yes, Flash Ray from the Mew. Alright, we will attach to our Mega Manectric. Then we are going to Max Elixir onto our Mega Manectric if we can. Yes, we can. And we are going to Turbo Bolt. Well, we cannot Max Elixir onto the Mega Manectric. I forgot. Let's put it onto our Shaymin. Mega Manectric is not a basic. I forgot there. I forgot. Well then. What shall we do? I'm going to Lysandre the Hoopa. Yeah, let's Lysandre the Hoopa. And we shall hit for a Flash Ray onto the Hoopa. Can my opponent find a Float Stone? Can my opponent find a Switch? Can my opponent find anything to do here? We haven't seen a single switching card. We haven't seen an AZ. We haven't seen a Float Stone. Escape Rope. What else is there? A Switch itself. Cassius. None of that. We haven't seen any of it. So I hope for my opponent's sake that he does play switching cards. If not, we have a free knockout here on this Hoopa-EX. And then we have a free knockout indeed. And all of our other Pokemon on our bench here are not very good Lysandre targets, because we can very easily retreat them. So if my opponent Lysandres our own Pokemon to try to stall, we should be able to get to retreat them onto our bench fairly easily. There's a DCE on the Glaceon-EX. Starts powering up the Glaceon, that's interesting. And why is that? Because Glaceon cannot hit our Jolteon-EX. Whereas the Jolteon-EX can hit for weakness on our Shaymin. Maybe you should put it on the Jolteon. There's a VS Seeker for an N. We will get Ends, that is okay. Maybe we can get an energy from for our Mega Manectric. And then we shall one-hit KO this Hoopa with our Mega Manectric. Power up our Shaymins. Maybe Sky Return our Shaymins as well. Actually discards the N. And what else? I didn't really see. A Shaymin for 3 more cards. Is trying to dig for a switching card right now, I think. All he needs is a Rainbow Energy for the Hoopa, and then he can make use of the Manaphy's ability to retreat the Hoopa. So maybe that's why we haven't seen a switching card. And another Lysandre. Alright, we will Flash Ray again. Let's hope my opponent doesn't find a Rainbow Energy. If he does, I will Lysandre out the Shaymin and get a knockout on the Shaymin. And then we can VS Seeker one more time for a Lysandre on the Hoopa. And then all we need to do is knock out one of my opponent's other Pokemon. Unless he promotes the Mew, then we'll have to deal with the Mew first. A random receiver there. I was not expecting to see a random receiver. That's a bit of an odd card to put in a Jolteon deck, I think. There's a DCE. Actually, he's going to retreat using the DCE. He's going to discard the DCE. That's interesting. Alright. Burns the DCE on the Hoopa. One less DCE that my opponent can use. That is okay for me. Yeah, it's definitely okay for me. And retreats into the Mew. Is going to Flash Ray with the Mew again. A Puzzle of Time could get back that DCE now. Or could just guide the top deck for the next turn. Grabs a Lysandre and a VS Seeker. Alright, he's going to try to Lysandre our Shaymins, I think. We might want to Sky Return our Shaymins. Lysandre on the Shaymin. Lysandre on the Shaymin. And another Shaymin. Can we find an energy to retreat our Shaymin? That's the question here. Can we find an energy to retreat our Shaymin? Our Shaymin will get hit for 80 damage. That is quite a bit. Crystal Ray for 80, not a Flash Ray, so we can actually hit the Mew with our Jolteon. There's an energy, we do get an energy. My opponent will VS Seeker for the Lysandre in the next turn, so we know he's going to get a knockout on his Shaymin. That's okay. We will Lysandre his own Shaymin right now. Yes, let's do that. Let's Lysandre his own Shaymin. Because we cannot knock out this Mew. We don't have a Fighting Fury Belt. This Mew will stay alive with 10 HP. So let's go for the Shaymin and let's take 2 prizes here. Flash Ray for the knockouts. Can we get an energy from the prizes? a Sycamore, and an Ultra Ball. 5 energies in play. How many in the discard pile? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One more energy is somewhere. I think the last energy is in our deck actually. I think the last energy is in our deck. I might just Super Rod at some point. Another random receiver. Finds a Sycamore. There's 2 more Rainbow Energy. A Float Stone. He does play Float Stone. Another Hoopa. A Battle Compressor, a Glaceon. I'm not sure what he's trying to get here, because we know he has a V-Seeker for the Lysandre. I'm not too sure. What is my opponent going to do? What is he going to do? V-Seeker for the Lysandre right there. Alright, as expected, we see the Lysandre. Question is, will we see the Lysandre on the Shaymin there, or will we see the Lysandre maybe on the other Shaymin? No, just targets the Shaymin that he already damaged. We will see another Crystal Ray, or maybe a Flash Ray this time around. A Float Stone on the Hoopa. That's okay, and another Mew. Another Mew. Crystal Ray for the knockouts on the Shaymin. So now we cannot damage this Mew with our Mega Manectric. How many more V-Seekers does my opponent have? Well, he can puzzle for more. Actually, no, he cannot. He used 3 puzzles. So he can only use 2 more Lysandres. Maybe we want to find an AZ. Oh, our AZ is in the discard pile. That's a bummer. To AZ up a Shaymin or something. Anyways, let's promote our Jolteon. What are we going to do here? We get a Fighting Fury Belt. The Jolteon can hit for 80 times 2 is 160. So even with the Fighting Fury Belt, this Shaymin will go down. I'm going to use my Super Rods. Shuffle back some energies. It is time. Let's shuffle back a Lightning Energy, a Water, and a Fire Energy. And we are going to, let's see, are we going to Sycamore? Are we going to Sycamore? Question. I might just Sky Return my Shaymin. I'll put the Fighting Fury Belt on the Jolteon. And if I Sycamore, I bring myself down to 6 cards. Yeah, that is tricky here. I could deck myself out. I'm going to do it. I'm going to Sycamore. I'm going to Sky Return my Shaymin. We get Skyfield, Smeargle, Ho-Oh. We can actually start powering up a Ho-Oh if we want to. And snipe the Hoopa maybe. Actually, that sounds like a good idea. Let's bench the Ho-Oh and let's start powering up the Ho-Oh with our Mega Manectric. That's a fantastic idea. We will retreat into the Mega Manectric and we are going to Turbo Bolt here for 2 energies, a Grass and a Water, and put these onto our Ho-Oh, and then we can snipe that Hoopa, take 2 very easy prizes. All we need to do then is Lysandre a Shaymin, and that is how we are going to take the game. If we can get our V-Seeker from the prizes, I think, because I think it is prized. I think the V-Seeker is prized. We could get hit here for a Crystal Ray, but whatever my opponent hits, we will stay alive here. A Trainer's Mail. The Jolteon will get hit for 80, then it still has 90 HP left. The Manectric will have 130 HP left. The Ho-Oh will have 100 HP left. V-Seeker for Lysandre right there. Another Lysandre. Is going to Lysandre the Aegislash. Interesting. Is going to decide to Lysandre the Aegislash. And is, oh my goodness. No, the Aegislash is stuck in the active spot now. I didn't see that startling megaphone coming. That was what I feared. Now we need to AZ up this Aegislash. That is actually what I feared here. We might actually deck out now. And that combo wombo though. The Lysandre and the startling megaphone. And goes for, I don't know what my opponent went for there. Well, what do we do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, 8 energies in play. 1 in the discard pile and 2 in my hands. So we have 3 more energies in deck actually. I will start powering up my Aegislash then. Let's start powering up the Aegislash and let's end our turn. Maybe that forces my opponent to find his Lysandre again and Lysandre something else. Maybe he will take the bait here. But I think we should be able to retreat our Aegislash with a bit of luck. And then we will be able to take the game after we use the Elemental Feather from the Ho-Oh. Sycamore is going to discard his hand, bring himself down to 7 cards. So he brings himself closer to the deck out as well. What is he digging for? What is my opponent digging for? Man, that Lysandre and that Startling Megaphone, I was not expecting that. Oh, the Darkness typing is Umbreon, interesting. And Ultra Ball is going to discard Skyfield and something else. If we can take 2 prizes, we can end and probably deck out my opponent that way. Grabs an Espeon, alright. Grabs an Espeon, interesting. 4 cards in hand, 6 in deck. We have 5 cards in deck and 5 cards in hand. Actually attaches, so now my opponent has 9 cards left. We have 10 cards left, so all we need to do is end, I think. End up Psyshock for 60 damage. Is now going to try to knock out our Aegislash. There's an N, there is an N. Well, actually no, I need to attack still. I need to attach still. Do I attach? Do I attach? Yes, I have to attach. And I will end my turn. A little bit unfortunate there that I have to attach. Hopefully we do not see another Lysandre on this Aegislash. That would be problematic if we did. Man, this is definitely not a game. No game yet. Oh, this should not be this difficult. We just got hammered there by that Startling Megaphone. So annoying sometimes, so annoying sometimes. If only I had more VS Seekers left. So we have 9 cards, my opponent has 9 cards. Who is going to deck out first? I think we are going to deck out first now. Crystal Ray is going to Crystal Ray, prevent damage done by the Mega Manectric. We will pass our turn here, because we didn't top deck an energy. Do we have a switch actually? We do not have any more switches. So both the switch and the AZ are in the discard pile. Another Crystal Ray. Manectric Spirit Link, man, we are not getting what we need here. We need an energy, we need that energy. We need to draw into the energy. And I believe it's in my deck, unless I'm mistaken. Crystal Ray. Oh boy, oh boy. Hoopa, that is not what we needed to see. Do we have the energy or do we not? Please let my opponent not win that way. That is the worst way to lose. Attaches an energy, fantastic. Attaches an energy. He uses one more resource. Now we will not deck out first, I think. Now we will not deck out first. A VS Seeker. Alright, so we do have the VS Seeker. We can pick up the AZ. At least there's that. We do not have the energy. Or we can pick up the Aegislash, but we do not have the energy. So we need to end here. Otherwise we are going to deck out. Let's end. Let's shuffle back those cards in my deck. And we do not get the VS Seeker. Are you kidding me? We do not get the VS Seeker. At least my opponent will deck out first here, because he's going to draw a card right now and we are not. So we actually force my opponent to find his own end and VS Seeker for his own end, if he wants to stay in the game. And if he does that, I think he still decks out first, because we are not forced to use the resource. And this is one hell of a game here. Let's end our turn. I cannot believe that last energy is prized. I could have sworn it was in my deck, but I was mistaken. Another Crystal Ray. Yeah, we are now using my opponent's own strategy here. He should not have attached those energies. I'm not sure why he did. I'm not sure why he did. And we are still not getting our VS Seeker. Sky returns the Mew, alright, that's okay. That is definitely okay by me. Promotes another Mew. Is he going to end in the next turn? We get a VS Seeker. Let's end our turn and let's see what my opponent does. Will he end? He needs to end right now. Does he have the VS Seeker for the end? Yes, there is the VS Seeker. Is going to end. Alright, can we get our AZ this time around? Can we get our AZ this time around? Or our VS Seeker for the AZ. That's all we need. That's all we need. And then we can knock out this Mew. Take a prize. And we do not get our VS Seeker. What the heck? Why are we so unlucky? Why is our VS Seeker eluding us? Oh, attaches again. Attaches again. Attaches again. Uses another card. Miraculous Shine is going to devolve our Pokemon. That is fantastic. We get another Pokemon in our hands. An extra card. So now we have 9 cards. Spirit Link. Let's end our turn. We did not top deck the VS Seeker again. Very, very unfortunate. No more VS Seeker for us. Oh my goodness. And there's a DCE. Attaches again. So now he has 9 cards left. Flash Ray for nothing. And there's a VS Seeker. Alright, now we need to count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. My opponent has 9. If we VS Seeker for an N. No, we need to take a prize. We are going to AZ here. We are going to AZ. AZ up the Aegislash. We are going to promote the Jolteon-EX. Maybe not. Let's promote the Mega Manectric-EX. What did my opponent hit for? Flash Ray. Alright, so we can actually... we can Turbo Bolt for the knockouts. We can do that. So let's attach our Spirit Link and let's evolve into our Mega Manectric. We are going to Turbo Bolt for the knockout here. And then we are going to use our Ho-Oh in the next turn for a knockout on the Hoopa and take the game that way. And that's what do we need? Lightning and Fire Energy. That is what we need. Let's attach them to our Ho-Oh. My opponent cannot Lysandre stall anymore. I think this is game here. I think this is game. I definitely think this is game. Our Ho-Oh will be able to knock out the Hoopa and then, oh, promotes the Mew as well. So we can knock out on the Mew. Unless we see a Flash Ray. Unless we see a Flash Ray. And then we can, oh, we can. What can we do here? We cannot end anymore. We are out of ends. So we will actually deck out, I think. We will actually deck out. Retreats into the Jolteon. Fantastic. And a Crystal Ray, which is fantastic. That is what we needed to see. My opponent should have attacked with the Mew here for a Flash Ray. My opponent should have attacked with the Mew. We will retreat into our Ho-Oh. And we are going to put 130 on this Jolteon. And then 30 on the Hoopa. In the next turn, all we need to do is put 30 on that Glaceon-EX. I said Jolteon, I meant Glaceon. And then we have the game. If my opponent had attacked with the Mew for the Flash Ray, we would have lost the game, I believe. Because then we would have decked out first. So now we basically win this game because my opponent made a misplay at the end of the game there. If he goes for the Flash Ray, we hit with the Mega Manectric. If he goes for the Crystal Ray, we hit with the Ho-Oh-EX. And it is a Flash Ray, alright. So now it's time to hit with the Mega Manectric. Let's retreat into the Mega Manectric. Let's discard the Fire Energy and the Grass Energy. And let's take this game. Finally, we take this game with the Turbo Bolt. Last prize, last card. I cannot believe this. This was such a long game and so close, so very close. What a game this was. Let's take a look at the stats. 760 damage dealt versus 390 for my opponent. Jolteon-EX MVP versus Mew. Eveli is going to be our opponent with some kind of deck that I did not see. I was looking away during the loading screen. So I will have to gamble here if I want to go first. I think I will try to set up my Manectric. Attach a Spirit Link so we can evolve into Mega Manectric. If we find Manectric, we do not. We start off with Jolteon and a...
Karp, 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 Karp.